Hello all friends. Today's manhwa welcomes us with an open world, romance, travel. Discover a different reality in the best VR online game Chrono Life. Our narrative begins on behalf of our main character. The Square, he tries to join the party of players, but all without success. Low-level equipment repels more experienced players. Our hero falls into despair, but a nice girl approaches him, who gladly invites him to the team. Charmed by her beauty and sweetness, he happily agrees to the forest. The main character brags about his beginner kits, which he purchased for 55,000 won. His new companion enthusiastically speaks of him as a fairy knight. His thoughts turn towards their love relationship, but suddenly she announces her arrival at the place they need. The incomprehensible protagonist was suddenly pierced by her staff. He saw a smiling girl who began to pour feces on him. She needed our hero only to complete the quest of the transition to the hidden class. After completing it, the girl opens the hidden class Goddess of Life, sacrificing 1,000 players. However, the main character realizes one truth after death: in this game the law of the jungle operates. Realizing that he is too weak, the main character takes out the craftsman's hammer, which improves the equipment unit by 1, with a chance to break the item. Having broken all his items, he falls into despair when suddenly a beginner's weapon falls near him. This almost useless item was given to him by an emoji player. After a little thought, the main character hits the stick with a hammer, improving it. When repeated, the stick is not going to collapse. Evening, the main character makes a hit on the stick, improving it to a maximum value of 99. Taking it in his hands, he does not understand how this could happen. Because of his clumsiness, he drops a stick, which with unprecedented power destroys everything in its path, splitting the continent in two. Players who were unlucky enough to be in the wrong place at the wrong time were unlucky. They all died. 850,617 players were killed in one blow. I realized the power of this weapon. A desire for revenge came over the hero to all those bastards who wiped their feet on him. In real life, the main character is nobody, but in the game, thanks to the 99 stick, he feels invincible. Hitting one of the players who got to him because of the view, the main character realizes that his stick has only 3/5 strength, which is enough for 3 strikes. Realizing that with 3 strikes he won't do anything special to his abusers, he decides to kill the strongest boss of the game. On the border with the world of the dead, the two-headed dragon Eurus is the boss. The main character appeared in front of him, and the boss began to act according to the script. Not wanting to listen, the main character hits with a stick and blows off one of Eurus's heads. Realizing that he cannot win this battle, Eurus offers to turn the stick into an ego weapon that has infinite durability. The main character agrees to this proposal. Meanwhile, in the city, a reward has been announced for the main character for his murder, in the amount of 1 trillion gold. All the top guilds of the kingdom are out to kill. Walking down the street, in the capital of one of the kingdoms of the game, the main character found out that he could see a cute version of Eurus. But only Eurus had 1 head, and he himself did not understand why he did not have a second head. Having bought himself a chicken, the main character walks down the street and explains that he wants to play the role of a super strong player, but at the same time hide his capabilities. While discussing this with the dragon, suddenly an arrow flies into the main character from behind, and he falls to the ground. Archers from one of the top guilds begin to appear on the roofs of houses. Warriors with melee weapons come out onto the street itself and surround the hero in a tight ring. Angry, the hero rises and attacks with a circular attack with a stick. From the blow, the entire capital is demolished and kills everyone. The guild leader survives. Realizing his deplorable situation, he uses a sphere with mass teleportation. A multi-million-dollar united army appears in the teleportation circle to capture the main character. The main character starts attacking the army with a stick. He kills melee players in packs. And when the magicians want to attack him, he attacks the circle of magic with his stick. Eurus watches everything happening in shock. The battle is over, and the main character has defeated the 3 million army. But suddenly the girl who killed him appears. After the battle, or more precisely the beating, a conversation ensues between the girl and the main character. He asks why she changed her appearance. In response, she explains that after completing a hidden quest to kill 1,000 people, she became the goddess of life. The main character notices that because of the murders, the goddess of death is more suitable for her. The girl continues to mock the main character. Without hesitation, he attacks her. But suddenly she finds herself in another place. He turned sharply and struck in that direction. As soon as the dust settled, he realized that the girl was unharmed. She explains that she has become a god, and he will not be able to do anything to her. Not perceiving her words in truth, the main character began to actively attack. But no matter how much he tried, it was all in vain. Eustace was in shock and didn't understand why the main character couldn't do damage. Here the main character stopped and decided to kill the girl in any way. In an instant, he decided to destroy the planet. The girl will definitely die from the explosion. She tried to dissuade him, but he hit the ground and destroyed the planet. In the real world, all players were thrown out of the game, and the game's website wrote that there were technical problems on the servers. But only our main character was still in the game. There he met an old man who introduced himself to him as the creator. The main character tried to find out information about his interlocutor, but nothing happened. Coming out of the VR booth, a man in years and a white tuxedo was sitting opposite him, and there were people in black around him. The main character was scared. The man approached him and called him and his weapon. Then I took him to a restaurant. Here he told about himself. He is the head of the company that created the VR game. The men in black who surrounded them were employees of the company. The main character had a stone dropped from his heart when he found out. The man began to tell that the company had sent him to take the 99 stick. But since this contradicts the beliefs of the man and the ideas that he put into the game, he does not intend to take the stick from the main character. Only the man really asks the main character not to destroy the planet of the game. After a while, the main character watches the party of players who hunt the boss of 21 levels. The team he was watching began to quarrel because the prince climbed on the boss in close combat. Having formed up, they dispersed. The main group threw the girl down. The main character already wanted to kill the team when he heard that the girl began to lament and talk about the starter kit. The main character immediately had associations with himself. But the girl was surrounded by monsters, and she was left alone. Having scored on the group that abandoned the girl, the main character bent down to her and killed the monsters. He invited the girl to join his team. The main character understood that he was doing this for Raffle, and that only now his story had begun. The girl sent the main character. She doesn't want to go to a party with noobs. Meanwhile, in the real world, all the players, and not only of this game, were discussing the battle of one player with 3 million and the fall of servers after that. This event has received several names. Judgment Day, the end of the world. But everyone was waiting for a response from the game developers. Most thought that the player would be given a lifetime ban or the like. But soon a message was displayed that the player who arranged the Doomsday is not a cheater or a bug. And he acts like everyone else. Meanwhile, the main character follows the girl around trying to impose himself at the party. But she ignores all these intentions and suggestions. Soon the main character changes his behavior and trying to seem like a noob, he sucks up to the girl. The pride that has risen from the words of the main character forces her to accept him into her party. A girl under the nickname Love leads the main character to a cave to hunt for bears. Love kills monsters when the main character is watching from the side and estimates the cost of the girl's equipment. And she understands that the equipment she is wearing is very expensive, and Love is clearly not an ordinary girl. Soon Love is outraged that the main character does not attack monsters. The main character understands that with his strength, he will not be able to play the role of a loser in front of Love for a long time. But suddenly Love's message arrives, because of which he quits the game. In the real world, Love turns out to be a famous idol Khan Sarang, who now has to perform at a major festival. At this time in the game, the main character began training in order not to kill monsters with one blow. His training is watched by the creator. Khan Sarang, 17 years old, second grade of high school. A pretty girl in public, but only her manager knows her true character. In public, Her hobbies are fairy tales, poetry, but in fact her only hobby is gaming. In an interview, she says that she does not like swearing, but after passing to the main character in the game, she swore at him and forced him to call himself the boss, continuing to play the role of our main character obeys love. Eurus is surprised that the idea of the main character pretending to be weak works on love. He also complains about tactics. Fight without killing and does not understand her. Love started a conversation about the nickname of the main character. He wants to introduce himself, but Love interrupts him and gives him the nickname Panties. While they are walking through the cave, they are secretly followed by a group of people. The main one of the group gives the command to gather everyone in the dungeon. Love orders the main character to attack the monster. He obediently does it. As slowly as possible, he attacks a monster that falls into a stupor from this. But only when the stick touches a few hairs on the monster, huge damage arrives on the monster, but does not kill it. The main character is glad that he managed not to kill the monster. Eurus looks at the monster with pity. But suddenly they are attacked by people who watched them earlier. Love understands that these are members of the Halcyon Guild. She gets into a fight with them. The main character crawls to the wall and watches the show. But suddenly the chief of the guild brings to the stage a girl who steals her bracers from Love. The main character argues that he has nothing to steal, and then it dawned on him that the only thing a thief can steal is his stick. In fear of losing the stick, the main character flees from the dungeon. A thief notices him and pursues him. In a desperate attempt, the main character attacks the thief, but does not have time, and the stick turns out to be at the thief. The thief began to taunt the main character. But suddenly I felt that the soul of Eurus was in the stick. The dragon scared the thief and she crouched in fear. After receiving the stick, the main character exhaled and knocked out Love. And then he killed everything from the Halcyon Guild and began to say that he almost had a heart attack because of the thief. When Love woke up, she found that she was no longer in the cave and began to question the main character, but he unconvincingly rebuffed. Love partially believed him and began to explain that the Halcyon Guild is a guild where all players play according to the pay-to-win system. And that they are hunting for her bracers, although why they are interested in them, Bona cannot say. The Halcyon Guild's hideout. The head of the guild chastises the leader of the group that attacked Love and the main character for a failed mission. Without taking the excuse, the guild head decides to hand over this mission to the 4 divine kings. 3 kings come out of the shadows and mock the leader of the group. They all have more than 1 billion donates. The first of the kings has more than 2 billion, and their leader has more than 12. Speaking a pathetic speech, the head and kings notice that they have a guest. This guest turns out to be our main character. He mocks them and their names. He openly says that it will be difficult for him to hide his strength if they attack Love, which is why he is here. Kings attack the main character. A girl who killed the main character and became a goddess goes to the gathering place of the guild. After the girl finished off the rest of the guild, the main character received a notification about reaching level 999. Chrono Life is the best VR game in the world, but it is almost impossible to get the maximum level in it. Even the best players will need decades of continuous pitching. The main character and Eurus were as surprised as possible. But the main character began to count all whom he managed to defeat. On the first day after receiving the 99 stick, he killed more than 800,000 players and countless monsters and dungeons. Next, he killed the strongest boss of the game, Eurus, and his army that was in the dungeon. This was followed by a battle with 3 million players and of course the destruction of the planet. Having received the maximum level, the main character was moved to a mysterious space. Meanwhile, Love was suffering from boredom while waiting for the main character. The main character found himself on a flying island among the stars. Complaining that he is constantly being moved somewhere, the main character heard a mysterious, majestic voice. Soon, he was able to make out a huge blue man in the sky with several pairs of hands behind him. It was the god of excellence, the guide of the best. He continued to talk about the achievements of the main character. And then there was a notification of the system about the transition to a hidden class. The souls of all types of weapons in the game fit into the main character. After this process, the change of profession was completed. The main character received the beginner master class, all the characteristics were reset, and not the distributed points tripled. Taking into account that he did not distribute them particularly, then in the end he got 14,985 points. Eurus was in a huge shock because the main character received 15 points for each of his levels, instead of 5 standard ones. Eurus explains to the main character that if another player with the same level appears, he will have 3 times more characteristics. The main character began to distribute points, but he poured everything into one characteristic. Eurus is horrified by his choice, and he realizes that he will eventually screw up. There are problems at the headquarters, and this is due to the main character. The head of the company is not surprised that he received the maximum level and does not understand why this is a problem. But the employee explains that the problem is what kind of characteristic the main character shakes. He laughs and orders no one to interfere in the life and choice of the players. Having finished distributing, the god of superiority gives a choice for one of his weapons. After a little thought, the main character decides to choose all the weapons. God gives him one last chance to choose, but he refuses and says he will take the weapon if he beats God. Everyone is in shock, starting with the head of the company and ending with Eurus. God becomes angry and attacks the main character. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, then like and subscribe to the channel. This will also affect the output of the sequel. Bye everyone.